It's the Louisiana Police Jury Association. We are here to assist every parish within Louisiana. We assist each parish. There may be a legislation within the state that we monitor and may have to help each parish with. There's a lot of things involved with the Police Jury Association. So it could be from a state issue, parish issue, federal issue. All they have to do is come to the Police Jury Association and get assistance, or we may be able to help them with something within their parish that they need done.
What are some of the big issues facing local government in Louisiana that need attention in both Baton Rouge and Washington?
The main issue is this Flood Act, the biggest water Flood Insurance Act. It would be detrimental to Louisiana. Insurances would increase so significantly. People with mortgages would have to just leave the mortgage because they couldn't afford the mortgage plus the insurance premiums that they would be required to pay.
We need to fix some broken parts of the National Flood Insurance Program to ensure that no Louisiana homeowners face unsustainable, completely unaffordable rate hikes. You know, we need to sustain the program. That may include some modest rate hikes, but I'm talking about things that are completely unaffordable. I mean, rates going in some cases from a few $100s to literally over $10,000 or $13,000 or $18,000 a year. That's unaffordable and unsustainable. That's also unfair to a middle-class family that's been following the rules every step of the way, that built to the elevation they were asked to build to several years ago. The good news is we're on a path to fix those real issues.
I'm working very hard right now with our whole delegation to fix a broken flood insurance program. I'm sure you're hearing from your constituents at home, because we share the same constituents, that they can't afford $2,000, $5,000, or $20,000 for their flood insurance. We have 400,000 people that literally are at risk of losing their homes, some of whom have never flooded before, many of whom built to code, built to the elevation as required, but now have been saddled with these horrible bills from the federal government for a flood insurance program. The bill that created this had good intentions, bigger waters, but it was poorly drafted. The cart before the horse. We've got to fix it. This program has to be affordable, and we've got to be able to make sure that middle-class families can afford these rates.
All the hurdles are being worked out so that this eventually passes. I feel good about it. People say Congress doesn't work, but every now and then, good policy trumps politics. I think this is a setting where good policy is trumping politics. Even in Congress, it occasionally happens.
This isn't just about folks who have a second home on a pristine white beach in a retirement community in Florida. This is about folks, real folks, who live in a working coast. It is a coast that the rest of America depends upon. We produce through that coast 25% of the seafood consumed in the United States. We either produce or process or import 25% of the energy that's consumed in the rest of the United States. It's vital to our economy, but it's real important to the rest of the United States as well. And it takes folks living in those regions in order to produce that energy, in order to produce that seafood, and school teachers and policemen to support and protect and educate those families that live in those vulnerable areas. So there is justification for us asking for that relief from this federal program that benefits us, truthfully, more than any other state. But there are other programs in Washington, D.C. that benefit other states far more than they do us. And so in this case, I feel totally justified in our efforts. And I do want to take a second to thank General Caldwell for giving my office the approval to go forward with litigation in support of Mississippi's lawsuit challenging the implementation of Biggert Waters without the requisite affordability study that's called for, but not set in stone as to when it should be done, before, during, or after the implementation of of these new rates. We are working with both sides of the House and the Senate, Democrat and Republican. Our delegation is united, and I'm truly confident that we'll be successful in getting some relief.
Parish road funds, that is very important to all parishes because parishes don't have the funds to take care of all their roads within a parish.
Parish road fund, so far we haven't been cut on our parish road fund from the state. We've got it every year so far. Hopefully this year it'll be the same.
What does it mean for local government in terms of being able to keep up with the infrastructure?
It means a lot of money that comes back to our parish that helps do with the roads.
That road fund is a major issue with every parish simply because there's not enough money to go around. Every parish is looking at their budgets when it comes to the road funds and the bridges. We have a wide array of bridges across the state that needs repair. Roads are in the same shape. Some parishes are in better shape than others, but we take our road program very seriously up there, and every dollar counts.
It's very important because our major through is we don't have an interstate that runs through my parish, and the main roads are state-funded roads. So if we don't get funds for that, man, it actually really hurts us a lot.
Some of these parishes are wholly, they rely wholly on this parish transportation fund to be able to fund a lot of their road projects and stuff, and we got to just pay close attention to make sure that the governance budget, it's from what we understand, it's in there now. We just got to make sure that it stays in there.
We do about somewhere around $6 to $7 million a year in overlays, but we need the parish transportation fund because that's about $700,000 for our parish, and that's very important for us. That's whether it's cutting the roadsides, grading the roads, trying to do the overlays, on and on and on. It's just so important for us, and I'm very pleased to know that the governor has taken a hard look at it, and hopefully we won't be getting those cuts. And I think our legislators and the governors are well aware of the transportation needs that we need throughout the state of Louisiana.
It means everything. We're so blessed that they have not, that our association has been able to work with the administration to make sure that we keep our parish road fund. Without that, I don't know what we would do, because we have a budget that we have to meet, and if they cut that, it's hurt.
It's the key. Without that, there are so many things we can't do. We can't, widen and make, in other words, we can take our funds and fix a road, but this way we can use part of those funds and we can make it wider, we can make it safer, we can put turning lanes, we can do, extra ditch work where it's not a 20-foot deep ditch, where you can level it out and make things safe for the drivers.
It means a lot because in my particular area we have a lot of room for development. I-49 is about complete going through Caddo Parish to the Arkansas line, and it's most important that we get as much road funds as we can because that development is going to be enhanced by the I-49 corridor going through Caddo Parish.
I-49, we've been working on I-49 South for about 5-6 years. Trying to get the funding. Right now it looks like we may be getting some funding in St. Mary Parish. I know we're going this coming year we're going to bid out overpass in St. Mary Parish on 318, so that's going to be a big accomplishment in St. Mary Parish.
I-49 South, we just signed a contract on a design-build project in Lafayette Parish. We've also just received approval from the Transportation Committee in the legislature to go ahead with another design-build project in St. Mary Parish at an interchange at LA 318. So there's a lot of progress going on, a lot of converting of what was a uncontrolled access to a controlled access facility.
We have a Parishes Against Coastal Erosion. I happen to be the president of LA PACE, Louisiana Parishes Against Coastal Erosion. So we're working with that to focus on that and obviously push through the master plan. Every year there's a new appropriation, and we need to continue to put all of our efforts into that because I don't think any other issue is as important as that, certainly not only just for the coastal parishes, but for the entire state of Louisiana. and indeed the nation, since all oil and gas is produced out there, and then 30 to 35% of the fisheries consumed come from our coast.
We need to make sure that we spend this money we're going to get from BP to get the most bang for our buck and not waste it on studies and looking at things for another 10 years. So we need to make sure that money is spent to lower storm surge and protect the coast. And secondly, we've got to cut through the red tape and quit studying things and start permitting coastal projects. The master plan, we just included our parish plan to formulate with the master plan, which is going to give us more money, local match with state money, to get more done for the coast, and that's important. The governor's assembled a good team that's been working very closely, and that's something we saw during the BP spill. We saw across parish lines unbelievable cooperation and effort to work as a team, and we need to do that more throughout the state, across the party lines and parish lines, to team up and do things that benefit the whole state.
We need to take a deep breath and take a look at the FEMA mapping and make sure that it is true. All elevations are true. And also, we need, like Ascension Parish, we spend in excess of $100 million of our own money, no federal money, to build our flood projects and our pumping stations and all our levees, and they're not federally certified. So we have a parallel move going to certify those levees and get that to where when FEMA looks down from the map, they see our structure that have helped the people, and we want that to be a payback for the people in terms of cost of flood insurance.
The St. James Parish, of course, is hurricane protection levy. We need to reduce the risk of damage that could possibly happen to our citizens through levee systems and such, and of course protective pumping measures. We are talking to Congress about both of those two issues. And there's a new issue on the horizon. You heard about the rail car derailments and explosions. You know, it happened in South Dakota, it happened in Canada, happened in Alabama, and it happened in Pennsylvania. You know, that bacon crude, I think, is a new issue that came, you know, a new product that's out there, and I don't believe there's enough known today about that issue. And are our tank cars safe enough? These tank cars are passing through our communities, near our homes, near our schools. It's a gigantic issue that needs to be addressed.
Where does Louisiana rank now in hurricane preparedness compared to a couple of years ago?
Well, I saw one of the reports, and it gave us a high, like number 1, 2, or 3 in the nation. So, well, unfortunately, I'd like for us not to be in Hurricane Alley, but that's what we are.
You're going to be facing another tough session. Nobody wants to talk about it, but there will not be a lot of dollars flowing. There will be a lot of negotiations going on. But the one thing I advise you of is don't let anyone put you against each other, because therefore people who have been friends all their lives find themselves not speaking to one another anymore. The second thing, be prepared, like the old scout, because just because a bill makes it through a committee, and it may sound great coming out that committee, once it hits the floor, you have these things called amendments. And these amendments can change the intention that you had for supporting the bill in committee to something totally different. But you must follow that bill throughout the whole process.
It's about a $25 billion budget, and it's been well documented what's happened to higher ed over the last 6 or 7 years. But this year we've increased higher ed's funding by $141 million. This year there's $60 million in the budget for state employee pay increases. These are employees that have not had a pay increase in several years, that's long, long overdue. There's almost $100 million in an increase in the MFP for K through 12. There's, I believe, $10 million in there to increase now waivers. So as you can see, the budget is looking a little better, a little brighter, and it's moving in the right direction. And if everything happens that's planned to happen, especially in Southwest Louisiana where there's a $60 billion economic boom happening, the revenues will continue to increase, and we'll see some really good things happen to Louisiana. What's on the agenda this session? Obviously, higher ed is going to be a big topic. Working through some of our challenges with TOPS. Workforce development is always a challenge here in Louisiana. We're working through some workforce development issues. And there's many other ones. Of course, the minimum wage will come up, and there will be several issues there. But look, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, and I do want to talk about the tax exemption study that Roland asked me to speak about, and explain it, and try to go into a little detail about what we're doing here in our thought process here. Louisiana, it's probably been 25 years ago since we've had a really detailed a study on our tax exemptions. And remember, tax exemptions are used for a variety of reasons. They're used to incentivize businesses to hire individuals. They're used to incentivize businesses to stay here in Louisiana. They're used to incentivize businesses to come to Louisiana. But one of the things that, since it's been so long, and since our revenue tax structure has changed so much, years ago, I think it was about 40% of the tax revenues for the state of Louisiana was all revenues. Today, that number is about 15%. So as you can see, our system is changing quite a bit, and our tax structure is changing quite a bit. So with these tax exemptions, we thought it was necessary to look at them and study, and let's see what's happening. Back in 2012, the legislature commissioned a study with just legislators, and we sat on a panel and went through all these tax exemptions, over $4 billion worth of tax exemptions. We met for about 90 days. One thing was very, very clear when we adjourned for that meeting. The tax exemptions of the state of Louisiana needs a more detailed, a clearer path, and a clearer understanding exactly what we're doing. Are these tax exemptions that we have authorized through the legislature, some that have been on the books since 1932, are they giving us the type of returns that we need here in Louisiana? Are they providing the jobs that they were originally intended to do here in the state of Louisiana? So with that in mind, the legislature commissioned Dr. Richardson, Jim Richardson from LSU, who's a well-known economist here in the state of Louisiana, and we asked him to take a look at all of our exemptions. This is a 15-month study. He will look at all the exemptions. He'll look at all the tax credits. He will look at everything that impacts our revenues here in the state. He will come back at the end of the 15 months, probably right before the 2015 session, and make some recommendations. He will look at, when he looks at all the exemptions, he'll look at the ones, as I said earlier, the ones that are returning, that are making the return for our businesses, the ones that are providing the jobs that they should have provided. They're providing the return that they should have provided. So we're looking forward to that study when it's complete. And Dr. Richardson went out. He's not doing this alone. He went out and hired experts, tax experts from across the state. And he's got his work cut out for him. It's going to be a tough and it's going to be a difficult job. But he'll drill down and get down to the meat of it, and he'll give us some answers so we can come back and hopefully look at our tax structure and reform our tax structure. Reform a tax structure that's simple, that's easy to understand, and that's fair for everybody.
We save hundreds of millions of dollars just by doing high-quality legal work. I have rendered 1,385 opinions, and I can still sit up here and say that we've only been reversed on one, and I'll still say they're wrong about that one. So we're good. We're good with you guys. We have handled 430. I personally have signed off on 430 oil spills and chemical spills, so this old mess that we not pro-business just really is not true. You would have heard about them and you hadn't heard about a one of them. That's because we're doing a really good job. And we have helped bring in a lot of money for the state. I brought in $280 million in these pharmacy cases. And if somebody wants to argue about that, the opening argument, I personally picked a jury. And the argument that I said, ladies and gentlemen, this pharmaceutical company paid the drugstore, paid $2.36 for this drug. But you know what the taxpayers paid for their average wholesale price that this company reported? $82. $2,000.20. The jurors looked at each other, and we settled the other 53 cases in 90 days, and we ended up getting $280 million. So I say that's the only kind of cases that I'm going to come after where they have really ripped us off, and we paid $600 for a $10 bottle of aspirin. So don't let anybody kid you about what we're doing. We're the lawyers for the state. Our clients are not always right. We're going to talk a little about the juvenile justice system and how the money is affected there. We really don't have enough secure care places, and it's all about the money. It costs anywhere from $180 to $300 a day to supply a juvenile secure care, whereas it costs about $25 a day for an adult. So I talk about criminal justice, how we can avoid, how we can help the people that are worthy of being helped, and how we can help those, but how to tend to the ones that we can't and put them away. And I have some good suggestions for them. So it's something that I do and have done for 35, 40 years, and I like to do something that really means something for our people, and this is a group that I can actually do that with.
The Shelby case, the declared unconstitutional Section 4 of the National Voting Rights Act. And effectively what that did was wipe out Section 5, which said that some states had to pre-clear redistricting, or if I changed a semicolon on a registration form, I had to go get Justice Department in Washington, D.C. to approve it. We no longer have to do that. It was ruled unconstitutional, and let me just say this. Louisiana belonged in that 1965 bill. I've had people say, oh, well, Shedler's elated because we don't have to do pre-clearance. Yeah, I am elated, quite frankly. But I also admit that Louisiana belonged there in 1965. Let's face it, we were doing poll taxes, we were doing testing of people before they could register to vote. That's wrong. That's a bad checkered past that we're still living with, and part of the problem no one would perceive us to be in the top 10. But let me just say, the Louisiana of 2014 is vastly different. Vastly different, and let me exhibit this to you from page 15 of the decision. If you looked at numbers in 1965, Louisiana had 80% participation from the white voter and roughly 39% from African American. If you advance that to 2003, which is the data used in that Shelby case out of Alabama, you'll find that the white participation over that period dropped to 75%, and the African-American participation jumped to some 71%, a 4-point differential from a 41-point differential in 1965. When I look at the 2008-2012 presidential election, I find that disparity to be roughly 1.5. There's total parity that has been achieved, mission accomplished, and it's time to let Louisiana take the training wheels off our bike to see if we can ride down the street without falling in a ditch again. Now that's where you come in. I have already had several communities with redistricting that have done or attempted to do some things that, wow, are you trying to get sued? Because the National Voting Rights Act still exists. It didn't go away. Suits can be filed under Section 2 or Section 3 of that law, and believe me, you just don't want to go there as a parish or city because of the cost and just that it's wrong. I actually had a city that I'll keep unnamed that was trying to have a special meeting the night before qualifying to change the districts. The night before, I was opening up qualifying at 8 a.m., and they were having a meeting because they had failed to do redistricting, and it's a long story there, and I'm not, but you can't do that, okay? And I told my staff when that decision came down, Secretary of State is not going to do anything different the day before, after, that was whatever I was doing the day before that decision, I'm still doing the day after. Because if you do that, if you just assume you're having pre-clearance, you're going to be fine.